Hey folks, a little bit of a technical glitch there. We've got new gear, which the good news is, I'm confident the new gear is bringing you a significantly higher resolution of video and audio. However, we're still on the learning curve here and making sure that we get it right. One of the things I did is significantly increase the upload speed here in my shop. So that's part of it. We've got a little black box that Chris is over there messing with. So in any case, we're pretty confident we're live. Here's what's weird, is I just talked to the camera. Well, Krista's back there doing a happy dance. So indications are we really are live. Is that what you think,
Yeah,
Krista?
we are live now.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do our open, which is welcome to WWGOA Live, coming to you live from Hammond, Wisconsin here, the Vondriska Woodwork Shop. Thanks in great part to our sponsor, Titebond Glue, who helps underwrite this event and bring it to you for free, which is pretty darn cool. And I believe, Krista, you said you already had questions queued up.
I do.
If that's the case, lay them on me.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
You may not know the answer.
And when I don't, what do I say?
I don't know the answer.
I say, I don't know the answer. I'm not afraid of being stupid.
Okay.
Happens all the time.
Joseph wants to know, do you own a Festool Domino 500?
I do. I actually own both of the Festool Dominoes, the little one and the big one. So yes, I do.
Do you like it?
I love it. I have zero obligation to Festool, but when I teach, I have said numerous times, I will probably never cut a traditional mortise and tenon again, unless I need to do it for a teaching tool. But in my own woodworking, I'm using the Festool Dominoes all the time as mortise and tenon substitutes. Love them. I just finished a project today that I'm taking with me. I'm teaching in Oklahoma starting Friday, and I needed a portable stand for a CNC machine, and that's put together with Festool Dominoes. Yep, all good.
Okay, thank you. John says, along the lines of your suggestion of sizing for screws, depending on board thickness, is there a similar theory for the once in a while occasion when you need to use nails?
Yep, same rule. So the rule for screws, so John must have a good memory. It must be a month or two ago we talked about this. Instead of saying screws, nails, let's just say fasteners. The general rule is use a fastener twice as long as what you're going through. So the math would be 3/4 inch stock, 1.5 inch screw or nail. Works great.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, I'm good.
All right. So we have a question from another John that's been spelled differently though. So
Okay.
Don't worry, it's not the same guy. He knows how to read a ruler, but how does he know if he sets his combination square to the correct measurement?
By reading the ruler. Here's the deal. I'm gonna come here, and then you tell me where this works, without like necessarily having my face in the background.
That's perfect.
Okay. So combination square, I can slide this, and in fact, I just used this tool today, finishing that project I was just talking about. So the distance from the end of the ruler to the edge of this head is indicated by the marks on the ruler. Now the exception to that would be on this one, there's a detent right there, and that's specifically there for the tip of a pencil. So imagine this is riding the edge of a board and my pencil's in there, and I do brrr, brrr, brrr. I'm striking a line that's perfectly parallel to the edge. In that case, we would have to make an allowance for how deep is the detent. On this one, I believe it's a 1/16 of an inch, so I would allow a 1/16 of an inch. If you just let your pencil ride the edge here, if you set this to 2, you're going to strike a line at 2. So read this just like you would read this, just like you'd read any other ruler.
Okay, thank you very much, George.
No problem. Hope it measured up, the answer.
Uh-huh. You know, since you just told a corny joke, do you want to tell your other one? That you tried when we were actually not live?
When I was tap dancing, because I thought we had to like fill time, so my new favorite joke is, so this border collie works for a farmer, and the border collie goes out and rounds up all the sheep, keeping in mind border collies are very smart dogs. So the border collie rounds up all the sheep, brings them in to the farmer, gets them in the pen, And the talking border collie turns to the farmer and says, there you go, I brought in all the sheep, all 40 sheep. And the farmer says, well, 40 sheep, that's weird. I only own 36. And the border collie says, yes, but I rounded them up. Get it? Get it? Get it? Get it? All right, we probably should do woodworking questions instead of highbrow comedy.
Yeah, we should. So we have a viewer here who has a question about changing his SawStop blade. Is that something you could do?
Well, tell me what the question is, and then I'll figure out if we can.
I'm having a hard time changing my SawStop blade. Can you help? So there's not a whole lot of stuff there, but.
All right. Well, let's do a couple things. You head yourself toward the table saw, please. And I think what you're going to need to do, actually, for the first time ever, you're going to have to come around the back of the saw.
Oh no.
It's going to be a much longer trip, but well worth it. Well worth it.
I need a gaffer.
You do need a out gaff here.
Thank you.
So the other challenge for Krista is the tripod is on casters, so she's rolling into position. And if I didn't effectively clean the floor,
like that.
Like that, if the casters hit something, like if you see the camera go whoop, like this, it's because I didn't clean the floor well and she hit a obstacle. So I unplugged the saw, and then here's what we'll do, Krista, is can you get, I'm gonna just take over because you do a smurferific job, but I know exactly where we gotta end up in here. I'm gonna pull that blade out of there. And I will, when we're done and I go back and I answer all of these questions, we did a video that shows brake changes on the SawStop, and if that's still online at GOA.com, WWGOA.com, I'll look for that link. And the benefit to that is we shot it from inside the saw cabinet. So here's the other thing I'm going to do. How's that for shedding a little light on the subject? Oh, not too bad. Okay. So here's what we got. That silver thing is the brake. Let me get a pencil so my big fat fingers aren't in the way. And I'm gonna...
And while he's getting ready, you guys feel free to type any questions or comments right below where you're watching. We're happy to answer them for you.
All right. So looking at the brake, there's this red handle down here. Tip of the pencil is close to it. That has to come out first. And it turns about 90 degrees. I'm going to stick my hand in there and just turn it. Once you turn it, then it comes straight out in, where am I? In that direction. That has to come off. And then, especially when a saw is brand new, I have found you got to kind of walk the brake off a little bit. And this saw I've had since 2007, so this brake has been off a number of times. Now I'm at kind of a funky angle here, and normally I don't need to use two hands. But we're going to just pull this aluminum brake in that direction, straight off. Come on. And again, this is about a 30-second thing if I'm not bent over backwards double. And then that gives us the brake off the saw. Like I said, it takes a little bit for the saw to get used to, say, the brake coming off. But once it's on and off a couple times, it shouldn't be complicated. So if you're having a lot of problems, I would give SawStop a call. They've got wonderful customer service. And I'm sure they would be happy to help you out as needed. I'm just going to reframe. Where are we headed next?
We're actually going to go right back to our regular old place.
Okay.
All right, so bear with me, guys, as we kind of roll along here.
How's the, let me ask you folks this, if you're a regular viewer and listener, I got that.
It's like an obstacle course in here.
Well, this behind the table saw is not a good spot for you to get. If you're a regular viewer, is the audio any better tonight? I'm just going to go here because I'm lazy. One of the things we hear every once in a while, there is an echo effect in here. There's a 12-foot ceiling. So I did put a different microphone on the camera today. So let me know if you think the audio is a little better tonight from both Krista and myself, or you think it's worse. Let us know.
Yeah,
Hit it.
we've got feedback that the video feed looks a lot better. So.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. So we have a question from Greg. He wants to know, do you have any tips on avoiding squeeze out? We get that question a lot.
Well, we do get that question a lot, and I don't think you can avoid squeeze out, because if you're putting on the right amount of glue, you're probably going to get a little bit of it coming out of the joint. So there's some, it depends. I would say the better question is how to deal with squeeze out. So on an edge-to-edge glue up like this, squeeze out between the two boards and the beads of glue are rising on the top. I let it get rubbery, about 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, slice it off with a putty knife. On gluing together a four-sided box, I put masking tape on the inside corners of the box before I glue everything together. So if glue squeezes out, it ends up on the masking tape, not on the wood. When the glue is rubbery, peel out the masking tape. I don't think there are ways to prevent it, but there are effective ways to deal with it. For me, it's all about that rubbery state. If you wait too long, the glue gets hard and it's almost impossible to get off. If you go too soon, you'll have these beads of glue and the outside is skinned over, but the inside is still liquid. And when you touch them with a putty knife or a chisel, and then you get wet glue all over the place. So when you first are approaching the project to see, is it time yet to cut the glue off, just do a little bit. And if it seems too wet, stop.
Okay.
But about 15 minutes cure time is usually about right for that.
Okay, perfect. And just a reminder, we're here with George Vondriska, the managing editor of Woodworkers Guild of America.
This is true.
Yeah. Answering all your, well, as many of your woodworking questions as we can live. So go ahead and put them right in to the under where you're watching this, and we'll get to them. Also, if you don't have the free newsletter from WWGOA, go out and sign up to that for that on WWGOA.com.
This is correct.
And then follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and
Twitter.
Okay.
The social media of your choice.
The social media of your choice. Oh, and we would like to thank Titebond for sponsoring us tonight. Okay, and speaking of Titebond, we do have a Titebond question.
No way.
Yeah, I know.
That is serendipitous.
We tend to get these a lot too.
We do get a lot of glue questions.
A lot of glue
It's
questions.
a sticky topic, but we can handle it.
I really wish I had a symbol right now. Like, anyways.
Let's just adhere to the thing at hand here.
Okay. Really?
If you don't ask the question, they're going to keep coming.
Okay. Robin would like to know, do you have a preference, Titebond 2 or Titebond 3? It doesn't really specify.
It depends. Titebond 2 is water resistant. Titebond 3 is waterproof. Titebond 2 tacks, dries faster than Titebond 3. That can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on the complexity of what you're putting together. For me, with outdoor projects at this point, so usually what I say is like an Adirondack chair that's going to be outside but not immersed in water, you could put that together with 2. A planter where the soil is going to be constantly damp, you'd be better off using 3. I just use 3 all the time. It's a little more expensive than 2, but you're defaulting to the more waterproof stuff, and I think that's a good thing. I don't really like the speed with which 2 tacks cures, so I pretty much just use 3 all the time.
Okay, thanks, George. Darwin would like to know, I am making a bed using red oak. On previous builds, I have used stain, de-waxed shellac, and poly. This time, I would like to have a more natural look. Can you suggest a robust finish? Thank you.
Poly. If you've had success with poly, then stick with the poly, and that should work.
Okay.
That'll give you, with no stain or shellac below, that'll give you the robust finish you want.
All right. Adrian is new to woodworking and he's trying to understand the need to use a jointer instead of using a table saw to rip both sides of a board for a straight cut.
All right, well let's do a visual because we own a jointer, so what the heck, might as well run it for Pete's sake. Let me get a board. And protection for here. All right. So here's, I mean, the question is a little bit confusing because of the word ripping in there. A joiner is not going to ever, joiner's not ever going to be used to rip, but a joiner and a table saw are kind of joined at the hip. In the perfect world, you have one of each. What a joiner will do for you is make a straight edge. So the way I explain this in classes is that we need a reference edge. We need to start a project with one good straight edge on the part. This piece of walnut is a good example. If I put this down like that and you put the camera where that's meeting the cast iron, clearly that edge isn't straight. So if your board comes in that condition and we put that edge against the fence on a table saw and try to do a rip, how are you ever going to get a straight rip? So with the jointer, we'll come back into an action shot now. The benefit that a jointer provides is in-feed table, cutter head, out-feed table. When we pass over the cutter head, we will end up with a dead straight board, dead straight edge. Now to take this process through its completion, that edge that I just jointed becomes the reference edge of the project. That goes against the table saw fence. We rip it, and then what do you have on that cut edge? We've got saw marks from the table saw. How do we get rid of the saw marks? Please don't say sanding. We come back to the jointer. And so we joint, rip to width plus a little bit, usually a 1/16 of an inch oversized, come back to the jointer, joint one more time. And that cleans up that edge. Then you have two parallel and straight edges. So there's a symbiotic relationship between table saw and jointer.
Okay, wonderful. We can probably walk that way, but I'll read you the question first.
Okay.
Okay, so Kenny is finishing some outdoor tables and benches. Really likes the finish with teak oil, but would like it colored a bit darker. Is it possible to tint teak oil to make it darker, say kind of like, I don't know, walnut colored?
Don't say. I'm sure there's an 800 number somewhere on the can, and I would ask them. Now let's see, if you actually stay right there.
Okay.
I'm coming back, eventually. When you call the 800 number, you could ask them, can I take a product like this? This is called aniline dye. The company is Trans Tint, and this particular one, ironically, is dark walnut. But this is available in 80 bazillion different colors, like wood type colors, like walnut and cherry, and also vibrant colors like green and red and yellow and blue. My guess would be this could be added to the product to tint it. However, I would definitely double check with the manufacturer. Don't take my word for it, definitely double check. When you do use this, says the guy who used way too much on the finish on his guitar, a little bit goes a long way. A drop or two in a quart has a significant effect on the color. So you really want to sneak up on your final color.
Okay, thank you, George. John is mounting a vise on the underside of his workbench. He has heard that he should use lag screws to hold it on. He's also heard he should use heavy wood screws. Do you know which one is better?
Yeah, I'm furrowing my brow at both. A little bit, probably, it depends on what your bench is made out of. If it's hard rock maple, a lag screw might work. We can show them, Krista, if you I'll come to you with this. what I do, I guess I'm just weird because neither of these was an option. I've got carriage bolts, counter bore for the head, through hole for the body for the bolt. Then I've got, we're making a sandwich here out of the bench, the vise, and the nut on the bottom. I think carriage bolts are the best way to do this. Now, on the front of the vise right here, there's a hole, there's a countersunk hole in the steel, and there's the biggest screw I could fit through that hole goes into the face. But here, where this needs to be mounted, I'd stick with carriage bolts for that.
All right, perfect. Thanks, George. And I'm going to apologize to this viewer right now. It's maybe Ellie or Ely. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. But I'd like to know, do you, George, have any hints on template routing sapele or mahogany? The interlocked grains cause severe tear outs and climb cuts don't seem to make a difference.
We can throw money at this problem. You want to spin or you just want to be blank for a second?
I'll be blank because there's a lot of junk on the floor tonight.
This product is from Whiteside. Let me get on a dark board so it shows up better for you. A lovely piece of Purple Heart. That is what's called a compression bit. And I'm coming back. In the world of router bits, we talk about upcut bits and downcut bits. On a compression bit, it does both. It has cutters that are skewed, that are angled in one direction to create a downcut, and angled in the other direction to create an upcut. This kind of bit would optimize your opportunity to get a good surface finish on anything that's prone to chipping out. In this case, it's a flush trim bit. In this case, this one is a flush trim and a pattern style because it's got a bit on both sides of the cutter. So that style of bit would give you your best opportunity for success.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much, George. All right, so our next question comes from another John. Can you use drawer lock joints for a joint angle greater than 90 degrees?
No. Well, pretty fast answer. If you're talking about a drawer lock router bit, no. Does it say? Or does it just say drawer lock?
Drawer lock joints. And can you straighten that because it's really messing me up. Thank you very much.
Drawer lock router bit, no way, Jose. If you're creating a drawer lock with a slot cutter or a dado head, could it be done? Maybe. It would take some significant jigging on a router table or a table saw. But I'm going to say, I think with a slot cutter, you might be able to do it. It would really take a lot of jigging to get the boards at the right angle. But I think it could be done. But don't ask me to demonstrate it now because it'd probably take me 2 hours to get the jigs ready to try a test cut. It's pretty complicated.
Okay. We have a viewer who would like to know, George, do you have any classes coming up in Spokane, Washington, or someplace I'm not going to be able to pronounce because I believe it is French, Idaho?
Well, I want to see it then. I had 6 years of French, so I can really mess this up.
Right there.
Coeur d'Alene.
Okay, right.
No, unfortunately. But here's the thing that I say frequently, and I mean it, I'm serious as can be. If you go to a local place, a woodcraft store, a rockler store, a locally owned mom and pop woodworking store, any place, a woodworking club, and say, I'm interested in having George Vondriska in for classes, have them get a hold of me and we'll figure it out. I just got booked today at a place that I've never taught before. So that's what I do for a living. So have them get a hold of me, and I love the state of Washington. I'd be happy to come out there.
Okay. Mark would like to know, George, what is the most difficult wood species you have ever turned?
Wenge is pretty bad because it's very splintery. It's really, really open grained. It's beautiful. I'm looking around to see if there's a piece nearby. There's some here, but it's not nearby. But I turned some platters out of it, and that was tough. The cowrie bowl, some of you may have seen me do that. There were some Instagram posts about it. Cowrie is a very interesting wood from New Zealand, but it's crazy soft. It's pretty, but it's crazy soft. So it turned great, but on the sanding side, the sanding was a challenge because even just a corner of the sandpaper dragging on the bowl would leave another scratch. So it took some pretty creative approaches to get the sanding right. But Wenge, from a turning perspective, I'd say that Wenge was the most difficult thing I've ever turned, I think.
Okay. We have another John.
It's John Knight.
I guess. I think that's just a popular name, actually. But his SawStop blade will not go down completely. It's about 1/4 of an inch is still above the surface. He called SawStop, and he was told to clean, then grease the gears that raise and lower the blade. It did not help.
Well, that would have been my answer. So riddle me this, John. When the saw was brand new, did it go down all the way? And if it did, I'm going to default in the same direction as SawStop, which is something is in there that's limiting its travel in a downward direction. There can be, it doesn't take much sawdust, 1/4 inch isn't much. So it could just be a pile of sawdust on the collar that creates the stopping point for that downward travel. And that could be just enough that it's preventing it from seating all the way. So other than cleaning, I don't know. It's never happened to my saw. I haven't experienced it. So I don't know. But I'd get like a headlamp on or an inspection camera and really look inside there. I think you got a chunk of something that's preventing it from dropping as far as it should go.
Okay. Bernard is going to make a natural edge table from an oak tree that was taken down in the yard. He let it naturally dry, and it has some natural cracks from drying. What is the best way to fill those cracks?
Don't.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, because I'm a big fan of, if you want to look at that pine, Krista, that's waiting to be made into a table, there might be a character-filled piece there. I'm okay with tables having that natural character. If you're not, epoxy is a great choice for that. What you would do if the crack is all the way through, none of those have a big Grand Canyon in them?
And we got some bug holes with that.
How about flip it over, look at the other side where those butterflies are?
Oh yeah. Look at that.
If the crack is all the way through, put a piece of masking tape on the bottom. Thank you. Put a piece of masking tape on the bottom that acts as a dam, and then standard 2-part epoxy, you can start filling it from the top. And then you might want to add butterfly to span the crack like I did here. And that it looks cool, and it adds structure to it so that the crack won't continue to get worse over time. But 2-part epoxy is a great answer for that. If you're really determined to fill them, 2-part epoxy will do it.
All right, thanks. So we have a question from Bill, and I know exactly what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
Why don't you answer it then?
Okay, I will. So Bill is, do you pay me for that?
You're so funny.
All right. Bill is a handicapped retired educator trying to learn woodworking who lives in rural Colombia. I would say if you're on this feed, then you should go to Woodworkers Guild of America and you should sign up for the newsletter. And
what's the question?
That's this. I think that's the question.
Oh, it's a statement. How do I learn woodworking?
Right.
Okay.
Go out there, sign up. You get lots of free videos, lots of free articles, lots of do it yourself, learn how to do it from the master teacher George there.
And we have online woodworking classes. It's relatively new. Started putting those up probably 6 months ago. The classes are a different format than the other videos that we have online. So when you go on WWGOA.com, up one of the menus at the top is shop. When you click on that, you'll see one of the options is classes or WWGOA classes. And I bet today we have 12 in there, turning, cabinet making, a variety of topics, cabriole legs. And that's a good way to learn. Other than that, you know, if you can find somebody in your area who is already woodworking and can help you hands-on, nothing beats hands-on tasks to really make it stick in your head.
Okay, thanks. And I guess we should take a commercial break, right?
Or a Gatorade break.
For all of the individuals who watch us every month and have heard this a million times, you know what I'm going to say. I'm here with George Vondriska, Managing Editor of Woodworkers Guild of America. Go out, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Sign up for the free newsletter at WWGOA.com if you haven't already done so. And big thanks to Titebond, our sponsors, the Pro Advantage awesome adhesive. Don't laugh at me.
Will help keep this free. Titebond, keep this free for you. Any responses on the question of is the audio better? Does anybody say anything?
I don't know. I'll look
Okay.
after I ask this one. Dave wants to know, what type of marker do you use for marking white marks on dark wood?
All right, stay put. I'll source this for you too when we're done. But
Right, so because George is going to go back through, so you guys check tomorrow, he'll go back through and timestamp every place he answers a question, and then he'll put where you can find this. So come back tomorrow and look on here.
so how's that for locale?
No, you can't really see it very well. No, go back down.
I'm messing with you.
That's better. Down a little more. Perfect.
So these are available on Amazon. I'll link it for you in the answer for this question. It's just a charcoal pencil. It works great on dark woods.
Okay, thank you, George. Oops, the wrong way. Oh, John, you're my new favorite.
What's another John?
There's
Or
another
one of the
John.
same?
No, I think it's a different one. I'm going to say it's a different one.
And
He wants to know if he can see the young lady on the other side of the camera.
we'll walk over here. We get
No
that question
way.
like about once a month. That question comes up.
It says she works very hard and deserves some credit
This is true.
and some pay. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you get paid mostly.
Um,
Want to do that now, or you want to walk over at the end?
no,
You can come and say goodbye at the end, and Sam will sign us off.
That's okay. I don't have to. But you know, if we're gonna make that turning video of me turning a bowl, then they can just see me turn a bowl.
This is true.
That's true, right? Because surprisingly enough, I actually can do some things in the shop, right? Okay, so sorry. Thanks, John. I appreciate that. Again, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and throw them down here in the comments. We're going to keep plugging away through these.
And credit where credit is due. Sam is running the soundboard, or whatever. I don't know what it's called these days. Sam is off-site managing all sorts of cool stuff that makes this happen. And then Krista here in the shop is obviously running the camera, reading the questions, texting someone on her phone at this moment, or reading questions on your phone.
I'm reading questions.
She's actually working. And
Thanks.
manipulating the camera
Thanks.
and doing stuff. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
all good.
One day we should show them the cords in the back here that I
That's
have
a technical wonder that we
deal
pull
with.
this off at all. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting to the
We-
questions. My
we
iPad
digress.
is not working very well today, so hang on here. I apologize, guys. Normally I'm quicker on this, but I think I'm having some internet issues on my end. So, Mark has a tiny shop, so he has to move tools and workbenches around a lot, but also wants stability when stopped. Do you have a favorite way to mount tools and benches on wheels? And the audio was sounding good in
Good.
Florida.
All right. Thanks for the audio response. So it depends on the casters. So let's come this way, Kristen. You can go right down to the floor
Which way?
on this one, this table. In this case, this is the outfeed table for my table saw. I also sometimes move it and just use it as a table. So in this case, these are just standard off-the-shelf home center casters. They do have a lock on them. It's pretty rare that I get that this needs to be locked. So I'm not asking much of these casters. If you pivot to your right and look at this caster, if you really want a caster that locks, these are significantly more expensive, but they're way more better. When I do that, when I throw that lock, it's locking the wheel and it's locking the pivot so that it really keeps this bench in place once I lock that. Then the other thing you can do, let's see, why don't you try to stay there and I'll see if I can get this to you. This is a whole different style. Look at how nice that rolls.
Oh.
And this is about a, this is a very heavy workbench. But I'll show you what I like here. So Krista, you need to be on this.
Yep.
Okay. With this one, it's cool. These are specifically workbench casters. And when I do this,
Whoa.
and then this, it actually is allowing the workbench to plunk right back down on its feet. This is a Rockler product. I'll source those for you when I sit down and answer the questions. But that one then, whatever stability that product has on its own, it's back on its own feet now when we kick it down. Get up there. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Dan wants to know, have you ever made bow ties for slab logs using CNC and Inspire inlay?
No. It would, let me think a second. The inlay function should, well, the inlay function would work, but I wonder on the functionality of the bow tie, because what happens with when you do the inlay function in Aspire or VCarve Pro, you end up with, you kind of create a bowl. So the female looks like this, and then the male inlay that's going to go into there also looks like it's got angled sides. So when you put them together, they have to fit because the angles on the inlay piece are matching the angles on the recess. It would give you a bow tie look when you were done, but structurally, it's not, if you're trying to prevent a crack from opening up, because of those angles, it's not going to have the structure that a conventional bow tie would. So it would do it, but it's not going to give you the, it's not going to give you the same effect as like a plunge router cut bow tie.
All right. Judy wants to know, why can't you just use a damp rag to wipe off squeeze out?
It's a great question. So when you wipe glue with a wet rag, you get the glue, you're diluting the glue. It's got X amount of viscosity, and once I start wiping it, I make it thinner, and I'm smearing it around and around and around. So as a result, that can make it really difficult to get the glue off. And the more open grain, the more porous the wood is, pine or red oak, the more that's going to soak into the pores, and it's going to be really difficult to get off later. So I just find the one application in which I do wipe with a wet rag is if I'm making a cutting board, because after that initial glue up, the cutting board is going to go through a surface planer or a surface sander, and so much material is going to get removed, we're going to cut past the point where the glue was smeared. So on a conventional, I don't know, it squeezes out of a mortise and tenon joint. To wipe that with a wet rag, I think is a huge mistake, because you're just going to end up with a nearly invisible film of glue there, which you're going to see when you go to put finish on.
Okay. Steve cannot join boards with pocket hole screws without getting an undesirable shift. There always seems to be some slippage. Any suggestions?
Well, yeah, so the question would be, how are you holding the parts? So we're on like the one bench in the shop that doesn't have what I'm looking for. Let's walk this way. So if you come to this is got, never got it set correctly. Let's try this one. When I put anything together with pocket holes in it, I use this, and that clamp ends up halfway on one board, halfway on the other board. Throw the clamp. This is an old style of Craig clamp. The new auto adjusts are way nicer. There we go. So when I throw that clamp and it's bridging the two boards, it keeps them in alignment. Drive the screw pockets, about your uncle. So you really need to have some kind of a hold down device similar to this. So you've got pretty good clamp pressure on that when you're driving the screws, and that will keep them in alignment.
Okay, thanks. Mike wants to know, he's repairing some old hand planes, and a local individual recommended using Molasses for rust removal. Have you ever had any experience with that? Can you comment on the method for getting
I want to
rust
know what
off
the
there?
moles say about that.
Oh my gosh, George, that's just retarded.
That's like the funniest thing I've
It's
said.
not funny.
It's the funniest thing I've said in months.
It's not.
It's
not funny.
I've never heard of using molasses to take rust off. I have zero experience with that. And from a chemistry perspective, I can't see what's in there that would take rust off. So that needs some significant Googling before I would try it. I don't know.
Maybe some of the viewers have tried it and they can comment.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. Okay, William has a 25-year-old table saw without a splitter or guard. It still is a precision tool, but should he bite the bullet and buy a new saw? Or is there any aftermarket solutions?
There are aftermarket solutions. It's going to depend on brand, model, age, stuff. I'm pretty sure that the company that makes the gripper products, I'm just seeing if I had one laying right here. So, Micro Jig, which makes different styles of push pads. I think that they also make a table saw insert that has an insert splitter built into the insert. And you can set that up saw by saw. So the first question would be, do they make an insert that fits your particular saw? You'd have to check with them. Then that's going to help you with a splitter, but it's not going to help you with any kind of an over-the-top guard. There are a lot of companies that make aftermarket guards that you can add to saws. Excalibur is one. I used to have on my general table saw, I had a Delta guard. So there is some cross pollination you can do. In other words, you don't have to have a guard necessarily from your brand of saw in order for it to work. But it's just going to take some research to find guards that fit your particular machine.
Okay, good.
If the saw works and all you got to do is add a guard and a splitter, I'd explore that.
Okay, Mike wants to know, are there any bar top finishes that could be used outside?
Boy, I would think anything that's a two-part epoxy is, epoxy is what they use on boats. So I would think if you're doing two-part epoxy, it would be okay, but I would check with the manufacturer, my default position. Call the 800 number on, call West Systems. West Systems is a huge name in epoxy products. Give them a call.
Okay. We have another John who would like to know, what would you use for a scroll saw blade to cut 1/8 inch ABS?
You can just stop because I don't know.
Okay.
You can check with PS Wood, and in the comments when I sit down in 10 minutes and start answering questions, I will give you their website. They are very knowledgeable.
Well, we're probably going to go a little past since we had some technical difficulties.
Okay, in 15 minutes when I start answering questions.
Okay. All right, Mike picked up a 2244 Performax.
Cool.
It's an older unit. Any suggestions for who to get parts? And is a rubber feed belt worth buying for it? Or should I just stick with the sandpaper belt? I
had a 2244 for many years. It's only fairly recently I went to the bigger machine I have now, which I'm pointing to. I had the abrasive belt on there all the time. I don't know what the cost differential is. But I, through all my woodworking, using it in classes, on and on and on, I always had the abrasive belt, and it worked great. Parts, I wonder if Supermax, which is based in Minnesota, not too far from where I am right now, I wonder if Supermax has any Performax parts. I think you could go to Jet, because here's what I think happened is Jet bought Performax. Jet subsequently sold the name Performax, but Jet still makes sanders. So I would check with Jet first and see if they have parts for your Performax, and then maybe Supermax if Jet does not. Check with Supermax.
Okay, thanks, George. So real quick, we're here with George Vondriska, Managing Editor of Woodworkers Guild of America. If you don't already do so, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Sign up for the free newsletter at WWGOA.com. Also, thanks to Titebond for sponsoring the video and making this free for you guys tonight. George is going to answer all these questions. We have a ton of questions tonight. If we don't get to them, George will answer them. So
maybe Tuesdays are better than Thursdays. So we need to hear from Sam how many viewers we have.
Maybe.
We normally hover around 350, right?
Yeah.
350 live viewers.
So, I mean, we got a lot of questions. So, Alphonse is all the way from Cambodia today.
That's cool. That's a first, I believe.
Yeah, says the microphone is way better. His question is this: is there an effective way to protect bare metal against rusting in a hot, humid climate? His saw blades are turning black and then rusty in no time. Same for chisels, planes, drills, etc. He's currently sanding lightly and spraying some penetrating oil. Unfortunately, anything sophisticated is not available locally, so the solution must be very simple.
Okay. I was walking to get an aerosol product, but it sounds like that's not going to help you. Paste wax. Paste wax, but it can't have silicone in it. So a Carnauba-based paste wax would help you a lot. Hand applying that to everything you own would be kind of a pain, but it's a solution. If you, I guess that's the best I got is a paste wax.
Okay. Gary's looking to add a central vac system for all his tools, but already has a 5 horsepower rigid vacuum. Would that be enough plus the PVC piping to have enough suction for a tool or two?
Probably not. So there's a significant difference between shop vacuums and dust collectors. Shop vacuums have a really high static pressure and a really low CFM, cubic feet per minute. So static pressure means if I stick the end of the vacuum hose in a pipe and I stick the pipe in water, how high up that pipe can it pull water? So they've got a lot of suction. With a dust collector, they have relatively low static pressure, but really high CFM, cubic feet per minute. So it's just the opposite. If I stick a dust collector hose in a bucket of water, it's going to hardly pull any water up the pipe, but it moves a lot of air. For something like a table saw, which I'm pointing to, you need about 400 cubic feet per minute of airflow to get good dust collection on a table saw. Even a 5-horse shop vac, I'm going to say, is 90 cubic feet per minute, maybe 100. So well below the point where you want to be. Will you get some dust collection? Yes. But two, when you go through a central system, every inch of pipe you have, every bit you get further from the collector, it's dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. So central system's great. It's not really what shop vacuums are designed to do.
Okay. Jason would like to know, do you, George, prefer to use a router with a jig or dado blades to cut a dado?
Dado blades.
Okay. And we have a lot of these questions tonight from several different viewers, so I'm going to lump them all together. We have several people who are doing woodworking for a hobby. They'd like to do it as a career. Any advice and kind of like, you know, what kind of tools do they need? We do get this question a lot, but we have a lot of viewers asking, so.
Well, here's my standard answer for people who want to woodwork for a living.
$500,000.
The easiest way to make $1 million, the easiest way to end up with $1 million in a woodworking business is to start with $2 million. My real standard answer is I think strongly you need to find something that you can do that very few other people can. So when I was first starting out and trying to do stuff for a living 31 years ago, and I would go to craft sales, I'd end up, here's my booth, and here's the retired guy next to me selling similar stuff, and all he wants is to make, he just loves doing this, and all he wants is to make back the money and materials. He doesn't really want to make a living from this, and it's driving me nuts because I'm like, I do want to make a living from this. So I think if you can find a material that not everybody's got access to, maybe you have a skill, maybe you can hand cut dovetails like nobody's business. So that can be your signature to all your parts. Maybe you buy a piece of equipment that other people aren't willing to buy, a laser, a CNC, ornamental mill, so that you have some edge in the marketplace. It's difficult to be competitive to the point where you can make good money in woodworking with, you know, kind of the standard run of table saw, joiner, bandsaw, router table, miter saw. And especially when you're first starting out, it's going to take a while for your efficiency to get there to where you can build quickly. So I strongly advocate, try to develop a skill or something that you've got that not everyone else has, to give you a little competitive edge.
Okay. So we're getting close. I know we're going to go over a little, but I guess we should tell viewers, what do you like to tell them, George?
Hello?
No. Where are you viewing from?
Oh, I thought we were going to, okay.
Okay. So throw that in there, so we'll have them compiled at the end here. Aaron would like to know, what affects pressure-treated lumber losing its pressure-treated color? How does adding various finishes change the loss of that color? I don't know.
Family Handyman would have a great, Family Handyman magazine, or local lumberyard would have a great answer to that. I've built a deck or two, but I know very little about pressure-treated lumber.
Okay. Scott says, hi there, I'm pretty new.
Hi.
I'm pretty new to woodworking, and I'm currently edge joining pieces of wood together. These pieces of wood are jointed in plain square. However, the wood has been cupping after the glue up. I'm using 3/4 pipe clamps and feel like I'm providing adequate pressure. Just a little confusing as to why glued up pieces will not stay flat.
Probably. So I would like to know what you're gluing together, and if you tell me 1x6s you bought from a home center, that's part of the answer. So you can mechanically do everything right to glue stuff together, but if the wood isn't stable, you're trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Stable means the moisture content is down. The piece throughout has been dried consistently, so the outside skin is the same moisture content as the inside core, and if it's not dried well, you won't have that. So it has really nothing to do with the edges being jointed correctly. It has everything to do with the material. And the other thing, you know, in this part of the country, in February, it will be 26 degrees below zero outside this building for 2 weeks straight.
6 months.
It feels like 6 months. So material of mine that's stored in an adjacent unheated room comes in here a week before I'm going to use it, because it needs to acclimate to this. So similarly, if you're in that kind of an environment, which doesn't necessarily have to only be cold, it can be heat, it can be humidity, you've got to get that stuff in your shop, let it acclimate before you start to work with it. Home center material, home center pine is treated like construction lumber, like 2x4s. It's generally not dried very effectively, so it's really prone to cupping, splitting, checking, all sorts of funky stuff.
All right. Mike is building a corner cupboard. What's the best way to attach the face frame? Pocket screws?
Is that his question or yours? The pocket screw part.
Pocket screws? That's his.
Okay.
I wouldn't have
Yeah,
put it
pocket
like that.
screws. Pocket screws would be fine. Sure.
Okay. Gene wants to know, what is your favorite brand of wood turning tools?
Oh, I don't know. I teach classes here, so I own 50 lathe chisels. I don't know, maybe more. There's Sorby high-speed steel in there that I love. There's Easy Wood carbide in there that I love. There's Record high-speed steel that I love. I don't know. I don't have a favorite.
Okay. Ron says the audio and video is much better.
Bueno.
He can even hear the casters on the tripod. Oh, goody.
They need a little WD-40 for next time.
When squaring a cabinet with K-clamps and measuring cross corner with all sides cut exact, he'll be out maybe 1/8 of an inch. What method would you use to pull the cabinet square? And I have no more hair to pull out on this project. which is
Wow,
funny.
that's
Thanks,
like
Mom.
something I would say.
It is.
Rack the clamps in the direction of the long diagonal. So this is going to have to be a visual. How do you feel about rolling all the way to the gluing bench and maybe closing on that end of the shop? They've probably never seen that end of the shop. So you go and I'll cord.
We should just sew them these cords. We should just.
Well, when you get to that end, you can.
Can I just do it now?
Sure.
Like, look at guys. Look at all this junk I have to
Cords
deal
and
with.
my lovely legs. So
Plus.
this is the Ethernet cable and the power cable, which are the snakes that Krista deals with every time she. Alright.
The glue table? Well, if you're gonna gas them, yeah.
Well, now just pull it. It'll go just fine. Alright, the end of the shop that you folks like pretty much never see. Well, way less echo over here, right? Because there's an 8-foot ceiling on this side, 12-foot ceiling on that side. All right, so we're gluing up. I says to the guy, trying to find 2 clamps that are actually the right length here.
I bet they're loving the audio now.
Yep. And then for you, you need to like kind of be as overhead to this as you can. See. All right, so I'm gluing a cabinet, I'm gluing a door, whatever it is. Put it in the clamps, close the clamps, and measure the diagonals. And, excuse me, in this case, let's say I find this diagonal is longer than the other one. The door's out of square, or the cabinet's out of square. So the rule is rack the cabinet in the same direction as the long diagonal. So if this is the long diagonal, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Rack the clamp in the same direction as the long diagonal. So if that's the long diagonal, I loosen one clamp, and if I really exaggerate, I rack it in the same direction as the long diagonal. Now, and imagine what's going to happen. When I tighten this, it's pulling the long diagonal shorter. Now, realistically, I'm not going to move it like that. I'm going to move it a tiny bit. Tighten it, check it again. If it's still out, go to the other clamp, rack it in the direction of the long diagonal, tighten it, measure it again. So let the clamps do the work. The last thing you want to do is take that measurement and then loosen all the clamps, retighten them, and you're gonna be chasing your own tail in that case. So loosen one, rack it, check it again. Here we go.
Are you ready for maybe the last question?
Sure.
Or not? We have 2.
Well, I have 9 o'clock. Are we going to like 9:05? Is
Yeah,
that
I think
the
so,
agenda?
because we were a little bit short today,
All right.
right? So,
I can see out the front window of the shop.
yeah, Kay wants to know, what are those ear things around your neck?
These are my like new favorite electronic product. The product is called IsoTunes Pro, and they're Bluetooth connected to my phone, not at this second, but they do Bluetooth connect to my phone. They provide 27 decibels of hearing protection. What? The other thing that's really cool about them is they've got a noise canceling feature. So what that means is that if I'm using these and Krista calls, so then while we're talking, if I turn on a shop vacuum, it'll isolate the vacuum out of the background, and she can hear me talk and I can hear her because these are in my ear, but she can't hear the vacuum running or the sander running, whatever it is, in the background. They're amazing. They retail for about $90. I think I've been using them for 2 months, maybe more, and I love them. It's a really cool product. I'll put a link in the answer.
Okay, and I think maybe our last question, and remember, if we didn't get to them, George is going to answer these. Check back tomorrow. Steve wants to know, what is the difference between, oh, it's a double, sorry, it's 2 questions.
All right.
What is the difference between boiled linseed oil and tung oil? Also, is it
That's okay, because I don't know. So now we're down to one
Okay.
question.
Also, is it okay to put a poly or shellac on or over it?
Okay, we're done. I'm not sure, and here's the thing with finishing questions. If I'm not 100% sure of the answer, I am the first one to say I have no idea. Because finishing is dicey enough as it is without an idiot like me leading you down the primrose path. So you need somebody who knows more about finishing than me, or my default position, contact a manufacturer and see what they say. Yeah, I would do a lot of double checking. I just don't know. Don't
Okay.
trust me.
Okay. And then, so I think that's it, George. Should we maybe talk about next month, since you're on the road so much in July?
So July, well, so there's a couple things going on. One, a lot of times at this point we talk about my teaching schedule. So in the immediate future, today is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 days from now, Friday and Saturday, I will be in Skiatook, Oklahoma. That's a real place, north of Tulsa, I think. So the event is called Video Woodworkers, and if you want more information, you can look at videowoodworkers.com. Myself and a bunch of other people are going to be teaching there for those 2 days, for Friday and Saturday. So that's coming up. And then in the world of teaching, I think my next teaching event is September at the Woodcraft store in Appleton, Wisconsin. I'm teaching a bunch of CNC stuff there. So in the interim, what Krista's referring to is I'm kind of gone the whole month of July. I leave next week for Philmont Scout Camp. We're driving out there 2.5 days. We're 12 days at Philmont with the Boy Scouts, then driving 2.5 days back. And then immediately after that is the big woodworking show in Las Vegas, AWFS. So I'm going to come back on a Monday and leave on Wednesday for Las Vegas. So I'm not sure at this second what's going to happen with our live broadcast in July. There's a lot of moving parts here that we got to get figured out. Like, could we do it after I get back from New Mexico, but right before I leave for Las Vegas, or do it from Las Vegas, or I don't know. I don't know. So you're just going to have to watch your emails, and we'll let you know as soon as we know what's going to happen with July. August, as far as I can tell, we should be back on the normal calendar of second Thursday of the month, 7 o'clock Central Time. Trying to think, I feel like I had another someplace I am that I neglected to say, but not that I can remember. So that's it. So now do you want to come and say goodbye to the folks at home, Krista, since they're asking? All right, she's shaking her head.
Particularly.
Well, you used to stand here in front and open when we first started doing this. Oh, yeah, you did. Go back and look at the archive
I don't
videos.
have to.
Yes, you did.
That's okay.
All right.
I don't need to.
Tonight she's being shy. So that's it. We're done with WWGOA live stream. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you maybe in July if we can figure it out. Otherwise in August for sure.
Yeah, just watch for the emails or whatever that that we send out about the lives.
And I'll sit down and start answering questions I didn't get to live. I'll sit down and start doing that right now.
Okay.
See ya.